Hello, this is your artistic weave friend Dylan here. Welcome back to Iwaihime. Let us continue where we left off. I don't know if I remember where we left off. Oh yeah, it was a big moment, wasn't it? Suzumu suddenly jolted up, surprising Hinagata. He had heard a voice. When he reached the room of the gods, he heard a male voice in his dream. Actually, do it first. Oh.
再び同じ1000年が始まるか。1000年が打ち破られる奇跡が示されるか。今がそれを決める時。
Ooh. Suzumi's eyes shone scarlet. The power of miracles now dwelled entirely in his fist. His body shouldn't have been able to bear it. The strain should have kept him in bed for many hours. However, he leapt to his feet with such agility it was hard to imagine he'd only just woken up. Hinagata watched in shock as he ran to the desk and jumped right through the window out into the schoolyard. Suzumi's body was covered in open cuts all over, but he paid them no heed. He'd left his shoes behind, but he paid no heed. One thing was perfectly clear from his expression. He had only a sliver of time to carry out the miracle he'd been granted. Suzumu ran with every muscle in his body. Nothing could stop him, not even when his heart felt like it would burst. He ran across the schoolyard, across the school gate, across the asphalt. He had long since torn his socks to pieces. His bare feet bled over the streets and stones. It hurt, but he couldn't let it bother him. Kurakami, I'll save you. Oh, God. So wait for me, just hold on a little longer. I'll be right there. Kurakami, Toy! Just scream it out. Suzumu slowly gazed up at the sky and took one last look at the picturesque scenery of the mountains. Once my body fully takes in this curse, how will the world change? How will this beautiful world look to those cursed eyes? I can tell this is the last time the wind will feel so pleasant, the air smells so fragrant, the sky gleams so blue. But if it means saving Mutsu, and protecting the village he holds so dear, then I shall go through with this and say farewell to my final attachments to this life. Oh, probably gonna have to blur some of that. Suzunoe entered the raised bell and sat down. She then closed her eyes and concentrated. Before long, her senses of sight and hearing were completely sealed away. Amidst that silent world, Suzunoe quietly gave in to her fate.
Yosh, 釣り鐘をかぶせるのじゃ.
You've already experienced all this. You're just remembering it, I'm assuming. While the suit was sealed into the sacrifice and 1,000 years of suffering began, she took the divine curse into her and was subjected to a millennium of torment at the hands of its wrath. 1,000 years passed, and now the sacrifice would begin this cycle anew. Another millennium of torture for Suzunoe Toei would begin here and now. Mutsu didn't have the power of miracles. That was why he couldn't prevent the first millennium. That was why he had wished for a miracle and dedicated himself to God for 1,000 years. And then a miracle came to dwell in the fist Suzumu had inherited. Now he had the power. Now he could prevail. Suzumu ran like the wind. Several of his toes had broken under that force, but he didn't feel the pain. He didn't have the time to. All he perceived was the heat in his fists, his anxiety at the lack of time, and gradually, gratitude for the miracle that had allowed him to run for her sake once again for after 1,000 years. By the time he passed through the shrine at the archway, Suzume's feet were tattered. His pant cuffs were torn, and streams of blood trickled down his bare calves. His feet were bloody, leaving behind red-hot footprints in their wake.
Toe!
It was just like 1,000 years ago. Tully couldn't hear him because he darted close off her heart. But even if she didn't answer, Suzume knew. He could see Susanome, Tully, trying to seal herself in the bell at this very moment.
今助ける
Susanome. The soup piled up like snow in a pitch-black snowfield, the accursed bell enshrined in the center. The bell was not hanging. It was already standing firmly on the ground, the sacrifice sealed inside again.
ムツ、いや、今の名は鈴むか。また1000年前を繰り返したな。そなたの愛した女は再び盆床に封じられた。
The music doesn't seem to match very much right now.
遅かったな。遅かったぞ、鈴原鈴。そなたは遅い。10年遅い。100年遅い。1000年遅い。そして今度はわずか1分遅かったな。
何も遅くなんかない。鈴の目は、トエはそこにいて、僕はここにある。何も遅くなんかないんだ。それどころか、木は十分に熟したんだ。
なるほど。妹たちを打ち破った拳はそれか。
Susumu's face glowed with a divine scarlet light. In his past confrontations with the divine curse, his fists held no shine whatsoever. Now, though his essence was fully formed, he had yet to reach the realm of the gods at the time. But things were different now. His fists shone as the very proof he stepped into that realm.
ムツ、そなたの1000年を我はどうやら見くびっていたらしい。この1000年間、人にどもへの復讐という一念を絶やさずにいられたのは我だけだと、そう思っていた。だが、違ったようだ。
僕も、僕たちも。いや、はっきりと言おう。僕も、1000年間、彼女を救う一年を、一度たりとも絶やしたことはなかった。だからここに、トエがいて、僕がいて、そして、お前がいる。
憎いか我が。
憎しみなんかない。でも、感謝もない。
ほう。ならば、我にどのような感情を向けるのか。
トエと同じくらいに僕はお前を憐れむ。
おごられたものよ。人鬼の分際で神の呪いを憐れむとはな。だが1000年ぶりの余興だ。聞こうぞ。我をなぜに憐れむのか。
この地で1000年前の村で何があったのか。僕は知ったとき思った。人間たちに裏切られた神の鹿たちの無念を。
Oh, he finished talking.
その無念が呪いとなっても何の不思議もない。でも僕はそれよりももっともっと無念があったと思う。邪法によってお前は生贄の体に封じられ1000年もの間何もすることができなかった。 その間に村人たちは自分たちの罪も裏切りも神の仕えも恩も忘れ人生を全うし幾代も重ね裏切りの歴史さえも忘却し自分たちの過去を書き直した。呪い元神社を祝い元神社と改名し六神彦の命の怒りを恐れるどころか何もかも忘れのんきに敬い出した。
Wrath was a fury brought down upon those who incurred it, but after 1,000 years all the villagers who had betrayed the deer were long gone. Their anger over this land had not settled, but unleashing calamity on children who had forgotten their father's sins would hardly be a satisfying reward. Rewards for 2 centuries of wrath. I hit the button back. Okay, just ignore that. That was why Suzumu couldn't bring himself to be angry at the curse. It wasn't just Mutsu and Suzunome. For the divine curse, these 1,000 years had also been just as long, just as cruel, and just as sad. From Suzunome's position, the curse looked as though she was forcing a merry laugh, as though trying to shake off the pang of emotion that swelled up within her.
だからなんだというのか、鈴む。この地には我が罰するにふさわしい人間がすでにいないから呪いを諦めて消え去れというのか。
虫のいい話だ。
何を言うかと思えばそれは我のセリフではないか。
因果応報、罪には罰がなければならない。だからお前は存在していいんだ。お前には罪人を罰し呪う権利がある。それは誰にも邪魔できないし僕が邪魔させない。
お前が何を言っているのか我には分からぬ。だが
この1000年の犠牲者はトエだけじゃない。君もなんだ。だから僕の奇跡はトエを救うためだけでなく君も救う。僕はこの1000年をその凡象とともに打ち砕く。
Suzumu slowly closed his eyes and raised his fist. This is how her divine tribute style. The fist of Mutsu had pledged she got trained for 1,000 years. Now was the time to dedicate it. When Suzumu opened his eyes, a whirlwind rose from his feet, scattering the suit like black petals.
我にはそなたが何を言っているのかまるでわからぬ。だが一つ確信したことがある。我は我なり六神彦の命の呪いなり。1000年を超えて降り積もりし我が怒り我が呪い我らが復讐。今こそそれが成就される時。そなたに同情されようとされなかろうと我は我なり呪いなり。人にどもにこの地に災いをその1000年の誓い翻すわけにはいかぬ。
When the divine curse swung her right arm down, another whirlwind erupted from her feet, blew the suit up. Woohoo! She grasped the sword of the gods, the 7-branched sword, in her hands burning scarlet with heat.
君の怒りは最もなんだ。君には怒る権利も呪う権利も吠える権利もたける権利もある。でも僕はそれを全て抱きしめて今悲しき1000年の終わりと始まりがつながることを打ち壊す。
This move vanished into the pitch black whirlwind. The divine curse stepped back just in time to dodge Suzumi's punch. It was fast, too fast for the divine curse to keep track of. Not that he had reached the realm of the gods. Suzumu was a match for a god himself. He could easily match the curse's speed.
滅びよ む神の怒りを知れ
The divine curse's sword left scarlet arcs in its wake with each swing. The blade that would curse one for 7 generations with a single touch howled, cleaving the falling suit. But something cut through those arcs, gave off fierce sparks, and repelled them. It dodged, avoided, struck, and returned the blows. Suzumi's scarlet fist repelled the sword slasher's attacks no mere man could have ever followed.
人にめ神の刃を
I mean, of course he does. It's been 1,000 years.
君の怒りはそんなものなのか。君には吐き出す権利がある。そして僕は呪われた村の末裔として受け止める義務がある。神の怒りがいかに深いか、神の呪いの恐ろしさを伝える義務がある。ざれ事は貴様に兄上様のご無念が分かってたまるか。僕の拳は六神彦の御に与えられしものだ。
何をよまいごと。
Oh, now you're finally telling her this.
陸奥は六神彦の御の声を聞いた。そして1000年が始まった。これは君の運命なんだ。僕がここにあることが。
I mean, yeah. The shine of Suzumi's fist spoke volumes to his sincerity, for it held the same scarlet gleam as the divine curse's sword.
我らの一族の誰がお前に力を与えたというのか。与えるわけがない。兄上様のご無念を知る我らが与えるわけがない。そんなまさか。
Ooh. Wow.
兄上様が。
よくぞ
What's up, right? Oh, it's up,
我
right?
らの怒りを今日までずっと1000年もの間よくぞ耐え続けてくれた。
The screen is making me more white than I normally am.
兄上様。
神の呪いはあるべきところへ今こそ帰る時。さあ帰ろう。愛しい愛しい我が。
お前はあなたは。
迎えに来たよ。1000年もの間、僕のためにありがとう。
今こそ呪わしき1000年の終わる時。
The seven-branched sword slowly fell from the hands of the divine curse. Her scarlet eyes brimmed with tears. Suzumi's fist left trails of light behind as he slowly lunged it forward, and a moment later, he struck the divine curse in the heart. There's a quick save. It was only like 20 minutes. What the fuck? We're gonna keep going. The curse spell that had marked the beginning of the cursed millennium was attempting to usher in a new one and was split in two. Suzumi's divine fist had just brought about a miracle, and then, like a newborn chick peeking out of its egg, Toei peered through the gap, too stunned to move. Overcome with surprise, she forgot to even blink. All she could do was stare up at Suzumu. Suzumu didn't move as though he'd been frozen in place, but his lips were curled into a smile. Oh.
助けに来たよ、トエ。1000年も遅くなってごめんね。
Toei had definitely heard those words. Her body became unbelievably light the moment the bell miraculously broke, as light as it once was before her hauntings had begun in her adolescence. Not a single trace of the thousand-year curse remained in Toei's body. But her rejoicing could wait. Something far more pressing stood before her. Suzumu slowly collapsed. He didn't shield himself with his arms to break the fall the way the living would. Instead, he collapsed mechanically like a puppet that fulfilled its role. The way the dead would fall. Oh, you don't tell me that. Toei dumbfoundedly approached Suzumu. There was no movement from him as she approached, not even the twitch of a finger. She lifted his head up slowly for it to limply fall inside. His chest burned with a righteous heat, but did not rise. His arms and legs were sprawled out, hanging like wilted flowers.
Suzumu. 待った10年待った100年待った1000年待ったそれでようやく再会できたのではないかその再会をどうして私たちは喜び合えぬのか喜ぼうではないか私は喜んでいるぞほら嬉し涙が止まらぬだからどうか進むお前もどうか笑って
I mean, technically he is smiling, but I shouldn't let it keep. Oh no, Gatsby. The divine miracle was too much for a human body. So was this the price he paid for it? Suzumu must have known. Once he came to possess Agasar, he knew his end was close, but even so, he hadn't faltered. Instead, he felt he'd gotten a bargain on that miracle. He died to save the one he loved for 1,000 years. No man could ask for a greater death than that. That was why Suzumu's face was frozen in a satisfied smile. See, I told you it was smiling. His face beamed as he slept into his arms, basking in her gentle warmth.
そんな男の身勝手で勝手に一人先立って後に残される女の気持ちが
So he couldn't hold herself back any longer. Toei threw her head back to face the heavens as she held the lifeless body of the man she loved and wept.
黒髪とえ我の声が聞こえるか我は六神彦の御事なり我の声が聞こえるか
聞こえるあんたが殺したあんたが鈴間を殺したんだ
あるいは耐えられるかもしれないと思ったのだ鈴原鈴むならば奇跡の代償に耐えうると我も信じたかけたのだ だが奇跡は二つは重ならなかった。呪いを破ってそなたを救い、鈴夢もまた奇跡の代償に耐える。その二つの奇跡を祈ったのだ。
Oh.
こんな奇跡なんて残酷。こんな奇跡ならいらない。私いらない。
She leave a god speechless.
罪滅ぼしにもならぬだろうが、そなたの願いを一つ我が力にて叶えたい。望みはあるか。
生き返らせて。鈴もう今すぐ生き返らせて。
I'm assuming he can't bring the dead back though.
死は覆せぬ。生が尊くあるがゆえに、死の神聖を犯すことは我であってもかなわぬのだ。仮の命を吹き込むことはできるが、限られた短い時間となる。
そんなの生き返ったって言わない。生き返らせて。鈴も生き返らせて。お願い。また1000年私が呪われてもいいから。私をどれだけ苦しめてもいいから。だから鈴を生き返らせて。
Oh god, I got his name. Rokugami Hiko no Mikoto was merciful. No matter how deeply toys Kundasara continued to wait quietly and patiently. Eventually, Tali wiped away her tears.
役立たず。うちの神社は役に立たない神様を祀ってるわ。
Her eyes were red, but they'd regained a bit of their shine.
私は今、進むのためなら、私が死んでもいいって思ったわ。そういうことなのね。進むに感謝して、私一人で生きろと、そういうことなのね。ありがとう、進む。あなたはいつも遅い。10年遅い。100年遅い。1000年遅い。でも、今回はちゃんと間に合ったよ。
Tali smiled as tears framed her face and stroked Suzumu's cheek. It was still a little warm.
徳上彦の御事様、私の願いは一つ。
聞こ
こんな悲しい目に遭うのは私だけでたくさん。だから私はもう一組の私たちに奇跡を託すわ。鈴の目とムツに奇跡を。ムツが儀式に間に合い、鈴の目を救い出す。そして二人は結ばれるという奇跡。
それを叶えても、今いるこの時代、この世界には何の変化も生じぬが良いか。
別に構わないわ。
She kind of figured that.
言ったでしょ。こんな目に遭うのは黒髪トエと鈴原鈴間だけでたくさんだって。ムツが助けに間に合い、 鈴の目は邪法の儀式から救われる。呪いは村に降りかかり、滅ぶかどうかは知ったことじゃない。でも呪いもまた彼らのものよ。罪に対して罰が正しく下されるだけのこと。罰を先送りにする邪法など邪悪でしかない。覇者検証、邪悪を破りて正しきを示す。あんたならできるでしょ。
わかった。問えよ。そなたの願いを叶えよう。陸奥は鈴の目を救い出す。そして村には再び呪いのすすが降り積もる。それからどうなるかは我もそなたも預かり知ることではない。それでよいな。
はい。私の想像の中でだけでも二人が幸せになれるなら。
さらばだ、黒髪とえ。そして鈴原鈴む。そなたのこれからの1000年が祝福されることを心より願っている。
当たり前でしょ。うちはあんたを1000年も祀ってるのよ。少しはご利益見せなさいよ。
So he could no longer hear the voice. The main hall was silent as a tomb, but a miracle 1,000 years in the making had most certainly occurred here. Proof of that was the broken bell on Suzumi's lifeless body, lying in Toei's arms.
進む。
Oh god, I gotta censor stuff. For a while, none of the villagers could move as though time had stopped. The villagers, the mayor, Susanome, and even Mutsu himself were all astonished. No one believed that a human body, a human face, could have the power to break a temple bell. But all of them had seen it. The scarlet, heavenly glow from Mutsu when he punched the bell. Now we're gonna experience.
神の怒りじゃ。
The villagers prostrated themselves before Mutsu one after another, as though he were a god himself. Indeed, they could all feel a divine presence residing in Mutsu. Mutsu also came to understand. A divine will had endowed itself in its fist.
助けに来たよ。鈴の目。遅くなってごめん。
But Susanome was bare naked. She didn't care. She ran to Mutsu's arm. Mutsu embraced her dearly, so they would never be apart again. The suit surfaced from Suzunome's marble skin like oozing ink, while the curse Uchi absorbed into her body escaped and scattered into the air. The ritual had been destroyed, so the suit was expelled from the sacrifice's body. I think this is fine. I don't think any sense for this one. I think it's fine. There wasn't a single patch left on her. Her body was back to its beautiful, pristine self. I think it's fine to not censor that one. Though there was no cloud, suit fell from the sky like snow. Though it was the cursed suit, the sun's light gave it a divine, even beautiful aura. Yeah, it's covered the village all over again. The suit rained on the village once more. The curse had returned to its proper place. Punishment had been delivered to those who broke their promise with the sacred deer. The villagers were devastated to realize their village was cursed again. Mutsu spoke to lift their spirits.
何が起こるかわからないけれど、またみんなで頑張ればいいよ。仕方がないよ。これはお山の六神様を裏切った僕たちへの罰なんだから。だから甘んじて受け入れよう。そしてみんなで許しを請おう。
六神様はわしらを許してくれるかの。
いつかはわからないけれど、僕たちがちゃんと申し訳ない気持ちを持って罰を受け、試練に耐え、それでも敬いの気持ちを忘れなかったなら、きっと六神様だって許してくれると思うね、鈴の目。
はい。六神様は私たちが敬いの心を忘れなかったなら、必ずいつの日にか許してくださるでしょう。
立とう、みんな。そして村に帰り、みんなに伝えよう。僕たちは罰を受ける。そして神様への敬いを忘れずに持ち続け、いつの日にか必ず許しをもらおうって。
ムツの言う通りじゃ。これはすべて欲の皮を突っ張らせたわしらへの罰じゃ。悔い改めていつの日にか許しを得るんじゃ。わしらの村は六神様のお山と共にあるのだからな。
The villagers stood. The fiendish visages that they worn as they tried to scapegoat Susanoo to the suit had all vanished without a trace. Instead, their expressions were all composed as though they'd been released from possession, and then each and every one of them apologized to Susanoo for what they'd put her through.
入ろう、みんな。村へ。
六神様と共に生きていきましょう。
そうとも。僕たち人間は神様と一緒にこの地に共存しているのだから。
They turned down at each other. Everyone then headed back toward the village. All that remained was the broken temple bell. It served as proof of the miracle that had occurred here, and of the miracle their descendants from 1,000 years into the future had wished for. The sun is so fucking bright. The sun just got very bright all of a sudden. Jesus Christ. And so the village's days of punishment under the divine curse began. The soil lost its divine blessings. The fields fell into ruin and troubles, with dry field crops instead increased. The harvest also yielded little for the effort that had gone into it, and the fields were not good by any standard. But the villagers split the scant harvest and managed to overcome a hungry winter. The animals of the mountain became violent, making hunting a dangerous task. Monsters would appear and threaten the village from time to time, but the villagers stood tall together. They accepted their lot not as a curse, but as a punishment. And even though their lives grew harder, they continued cherishing their god. They offered up some of their meager harvest and continued to appease the Rokugami Hiko no Makoto. Susanoo also was revered as the village's priestess. The villagers obediently followed her teachings and renewed their respect for the divine. Their children lost their smiles amidst the poor lives, but Mutsu's never faded. Eventually, thanks to his influence, they regained their smiles one after another. And children regained their vitality, and in time, the whole village found the laughter they had once lost. Years passed as the curse continued, 1, 2, and in time 5. The villagers had completely adapted to their environment by this point. They revered the monsters as messengers of the divine and gave offerings to the forest and mountain. In time, the monsters stopped attacking the village. Gradually, the hills and fields regained the blessings of the land. Thanks to the villagers working together to create an irrigation system, the crop fields also recovered their bounty. The village was far poorer than it had been before. However, it was richer than ever in smiles.
マックス・デラックス・メテオバスター。
それは読んでいた。鈴の目、今日こそお前は星になる。ふーメガトンカウンターホームラン。
はい、ムツはピッチャです。
違うね、セゼがピッチャだね。
そっちがピッチャです。ピッチャピッチャ。
Oh god, this is kind of different.
ビッチャビッチャビッチャッチャー。
ムツがピッチャ、ムツがピッチャ。違うよ、鈴の目がピッチャだよ。ピッチャピッチャ。
あの二人は相変わらずだの。
The sixth winter was harsh, but the children were as resolute as ever. They had hearty snowball fights with the gray snow dirty by the suits. Adults grinned at the sight and thanked the god who had preserved their children's smiles. Their reserves were scarce as always, but everyone worked together like family and managed to make it to spring. God, this fucking sun. I'll put it on auto, so it can just do it automatically. Yeah, I put it on auto this time, I guess. For now. Did I read this? I don't remember if I read this. The 7th year turned out to be the turning point when the villagers built an elegant altar at the abandoned temple and worshipped Rokugama Hiko no Mikoto there. In the past, they had constantly prayed to the dear god to forgive them. But this year was a bit different. They were grateful that amidst the trials, the villagers had supported one another and renewed their reverence for God. They didn't wish for the curse to end this year, instead they thanked it. And then the 7th winter ended and the curse of 7 years came to a close. People noticed the hills and fields had regained their former glory. Hey, it's all gone. The eternally gray sky-clad episode had never been there. The long-forgotten scent of fresh verdure rode the wind once more.
ミコ様、これはひょっとして六神様が。
はい、六神様のお声が聞こえます。これで村を覆う呪いは終わりです。敬いと感謝を忘れず、清らかに生きることを誓うならば、神は怒りを収めると仰せです。
The villagers shouted with joy, sensing Roku. Oh god, how many times did I have to say it? Rokugama Hiko no Mikoto on the other side of the beautiful sunlight shining between the clouds. They all offered their thanks and reverence.
口寄せだっけ。すごいね。神様の声が聞けるなんて。
いいえ、口寄せではありませんし、神の声も聞こえてはおりませぬ。
じゃあどうして呪いが終わったってわかるんだい？
それはここに知らせがあるのです。
With a faint blush, Susanome took Mitsu's hand and placed it atop her stomach. Mitsu was wide-eyed and shocked for a moment, but soon understood and jumped with joy. He picked Susanome up and spun her around. The women of the village understood what that signified and everyone celebrated. Aww. And then, on the day of the first flowers after the curse bloomed, Mitsu and Susanome were married. It is said that those who were blessed with several children, they thanked the god who had granted them such wonderful days and gave them all names modeled off of the seasons. Their children valued that deeply, and so the tradition was passed down through each generation. Eventually, the people built a magnificent shrine to worship Rokugame Hiko no Mikoto and named it Noroimoto Shrine, so that future generations will never forget the trial of the divine curse they had faced without any loss. As proof of their god's miracle, they enshrined the broken bell as the shrine's Shintai. On the day it was completed, Mitsu and Susanome heard a voice from above.
我こそは
六神彦の命の呪いなり。よくぞ我らの呪いを受けながらも神を敬う気持ちを失わずに我らを慰め祭り続けた。兄上さん、5本六神彦の命は村人たちを正しく導いたそなたらに特別な褒美を与えよと仰せになられた。
Wasn't expecting the ahem.
褒美など恐れ多くございます。望め、好きな望みを叶えてやろうぞ。できれば手早く決めてもらえると助かる。我も役目を果たさぬうちは帰れぬのでな。
It seems a little interesting.
どうしましょう、ムツ。私たちはもう十分な幸せを手に入れていると思います。これ以上の何かを望んでしまうのはおこがましい気がして。
一つあるんだ。
何でしょう。
君を救うために盆栽を終わったあの日のあの奇跡。もちろん天の奇跡であることには間違いないんだけど、誰かが、それも君にとてもよく似た誰かが僕にその奇跡を祈ってくれたから奇跡が起きた。ずっとそんな気がしてたんだ。
そのようなことが。ではその祈ってくれた方は私の恩人なのですね。
僕はその人に感謝したい。
なれば願いはいかんに。
その人に笑顔を。どれほどの悲しみの中にあっても笑顔を取り戻すことができる。そんな奇跡をその人に。
ふむ、その願いしかと聞き届けたぞ。さらばだ、陸奥鈴の目。そなたらの7年間は見下げ果てた人間どもを再び信じてもよいと思うに足る素晴らしいものであったぞ。
The divine curse quietly returned to the heavens. They didn't know who the girl who resembled Suzunoma they'd wished for the miracle was, but
幸せになってくれるといいですね。
no way. We're still not done, Jesus. So we defeated the curse, and we're still not done. Alright then. I guess that ends this video for Iwaihime. Well, we defeated the curse, finally. And we even gave Mutsu and Suzunome the happiness that they needed, needed. And we're still not done with this chapter. Huh. Like, I don't know what to expect next time. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, subscribe. Check out other stuff I've done, and see you next time. Bye-bye.